Alright, in this video I'm gonna talk about my 9 favorite channels on YouTube for when it comes to camera gear and reviews. That's what's coming up. Alright, first on the list we got this channel called Kinotika, and it's run by this guy called Dave Mays, which is a really funny guy. And the channel is, self-proclaimed the funniest camera gear review channel on YouTube, or the most fun camera gear review channel on YouTube, and kind of have to agree with them. It is a really fun channel to watch. It's obviously more sort of edutainment more than anything, it's entertainment based, and it's a fun time watching the videos rather than you're gonna learn the most intricate of specs and tech specs. It's not the type of channel that will take photos of test charts to measure sharpness at all apertures of a lens and stuff like that, but more it's just like a good time playing around with camera gear, telling you what they like and what they don't like about the gear. Highly recommended. It's always a good watch. Dave Mays is a really fun guy and just seems like a genuine dude, so check that out. Alright, moving on to number 2 on the list, which is this very interesting channel called Noob, and it's basically a channel with a guy who his whole channel is sort of focused on building vlogging setups, and he really gets down into the whole putting specialty parts together to build these sort of optimal camera rigs, specifically purpose built for different YouTube setups, if that makes sense. So for example, he will have one video where he builds what he calls the most stable camera setup ever, which is basically he's putting that new insanely stable GoPro Hero 7 on a gimbal, and he just tries how stable he can get that footage, and it is really something else. He runs at full speed with it and it looks like it's being shot just on a crane or something. It's remarkable, and he builds all these types of different vlogging setups for different purposes. He'll have one where he tries to build it as small as possible or as efficient as possible. He has one very interesting video where he tries to make a Casey Neistat style vlogging kit, but made with a GoPro as the main camera, for example. So it's sort of this channel where he Frankensteins together different rigs, and it's really a good watch if you're into camera gear in general, and if you're into the whole sort of putting different parts together to see what you can come up with. Basically, if you enjoyed Legos as a kid, you're probably gonna enjoy his channel. Alright, moving on to number 3 on the list. I have my list here, let me just read. Oh yeah, so number 3 on the list is this channel called That One Camera Guy. The one is the number 1, not spelled out, and it's run by a guy named Danny, and his channel is, I would say, more focused on sort of the tech specs side of things. His reviews are solely for Sony gear, at least I think it's solely for Sony gear, and I have to give him a lot of credit. I watched one video of his where he reviews and compares basically every single autofocus 50mm lens there is for Sony full frame, and I can't imagine how much effort he put into that video. It's an amazing effort and an amazing video, therefore. He will do stuff like compare when it comes to sharpness, focusing speed, video autofocus, bokeh quality, all things like that, and then he'll let you know sort of like where they sit in the price range, and yeah, just great channel, seems like a really great guy as well. Really recommend him. And you know, moving on to the next person on the list, which is of course Jason Wong. And he actually, his channel is very similar to Danny's channel, and it is also focused around Sony gear and reviews of Sony gear and, you know, stuff for Sony cameras. And Danny and Jason actually do a sort of live stream together that I think they do most Mondays, where they just discuss what's new in the world of gear and as in camera gear. And yeah, like while Danny's videos tend to be more technical, Jason's, while still, you know, being fairly technical, are also a bit more entertainment and a bit more entertaining, I should say. You know, Jason's a funny guy, and his videos are funny for it, you know. Yeah, what else is there to say, really? Yeah, focused on Sony gear, as I said already. I think that is all I have to say about Jason Wong for now. You should definitely check his channel out. It's a great watch, and I always look forward to his next video. Alright, I have my list here, I'm just reading. Alright, next on the list we got Max Yuryev. So again, his channel mostly focused on camera gear reviews, which obviously this video is about channels that do great camera gear reviews. But the reason why I hesitated like that is he kind of has another channel called Max Tech, where he focuses on sort of like iPhone, like smartphone tech and the latest MacBooks and stuff like that. But the reason I'm confused is because he sort of made that channel when his first channel accidentally got demonetized, and then he sort of got remonetized after they found their problem. So I'm not sure really what goes where anymore, but in general, you know, his reviews are really good. You should probably just subscribe to both channels, really. But yeah, so the content of his videos is, you know, focused a lot on the specs, and he's a very, you know, good presenter, and he presents, you know, all the information really, you know, in a way that makes it really easy to understand for everyone. And he'll, you know, test every single sort of recording mode of every camera, and, you know, like he'll see how does the quality of the 4K full frame compare to the 120 frames per second slow motion shot in crop mode on the A7 III, for example. And then he'll, you know, compare how the rolling shutter is compared to the Canon EOS R, for example. And yeah, he also had one very good video where he put all of the current sort of full frame mirrorless cameras against each other. You know, I think it was the Nikon Z6, the Canon EOS R, the Sony A7 III, and I think he also compared it to like the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K and the Fuji X-T3, and he sort of just put all the cameras up against each other, compared them, and just said how they stack up against each other. Highly recommend his channel. And let's move on to who's next on the list, which is, right, so next on the list we have Philip Bloom, which is a, you know, veteran professional, you know, cinematographer, really knowledgeable guy who has, you know, worked professionally as a cinematographer for years. And it's very interesting to sort of get because his channel is, while somewhat focused on, you know, reviewing consumer products, like he'll review consumer drones, for example. It is mostly, or at least to a certain extent, focused on reviewing high-end gear. You know, like the Kinefinities and the Z-cams and you know, the sort of professional high-grade video gear that's out there. But it's just sort of for us regular people, it's sort of a very interesting look into the world of sort of how he works with, you know, the best tools there are. And it's just great to listen to someone so knowledgeable, really. So highly recommend his channel. And moving on to the next channel on the list, you know, we go from the many-year veteran professional filmmaker to a channel that's literally called The Everyday Dad. So already you sort of get what the deal is there. He even says in the videos, I believe his tagline is, if he can figure it out, then you can figure it out. His reviews are great. They're very down to earth, and it's not about the best specs and the technical details, but more about what he likes to call the fiddliness. He'll review the user experience of using camera gear more than anything else, which I think is really important. You know, when you look at reviews online and you read about camera gear, it's very easy to get caught up in, you know, what specs does this have? Does it have 4K 60 frames a second? Does it have this? Does it have that? How many stops dynamic range? But what we probably should focus a lot more on is just how easy to use and how enjoyable is it to use this camera, you know, or this tripod or this lens. Because that really matters a lot more than you'd think. If you don't enjoy using a camera, you're not gonna use it, right? And they're tools, they're made to be used more than anything. And that's why I think a channel like his is so important and so good, and you should check it out. And I should move on to the next channel on this list, which is a channel called Dslr Video Shooter. Very, very good channel, run by this guy called Caleb Pike, you know, which is I want to say he's a professional filmmaker. I might have that wrong. I think he is. And you know, his channel it's not only gear reviews. Many of these channels on this list here doesn't only do gear reviews. I probably should have mentioned that earlier, but oh well. But yeah, it's basically anything when it comes to making things. You know, he'll and not just camera gear. He'll also review lights, tripods, microphone, things like that, and it'll also show you sort of the how of it all, how to, you know, light the scene, how to rig up microphones, and you know, just the theory and as well as the practicality behind, you know, making video, right? DSLR Video Shooter, it's everything that has to do with that. And his reviews are just very thorough, and he's a very professional guy. He goes at it with a very professional approach. He'll let you know what's up, and I always look forward to a new video of his, no matter if it's a new review or if it's you know, tutorial type of video, or if it's just him showing you how he lights the shots for his B-roll. You always come away like leave the video having learned something new, and you've had a great time while learning it. So highly recommended channel, DSLR Video Shooter. Now finally, let's move on to the last channel on my list, which is saved for last for good reason, because it's a specialty channel for sure. It is this guy called Tito Ferradans, and I hope I pronounced that at least somewhat correctly. He does anamorphic gear reviews, and if you're like, what's that? Then I don't blame you, but basically anamorphic is a special type of lens that was made, you know, or at least was popularized by the cinema industry, I want to say way back in the 1900s sometime. And it's basically what allowed them to shoot, you know, our widescreen format on our almost square format film. And it does that optically by sort of squeezing the image together through the lens on just the horizontal axis, and then when you project it out again, it re-squeezes it out the other way. And that whole process gives the image a very unique look that you sort of cannot replicate without using specifically anamorphic lenses that do that. And that's why they still to this day use anamorphic lenses for making, you know, Hollywood movies. It just gives that really cinematic look that you can't really get without them. You know, like, while you can go out and just buy anamorphic lenses, you probably don't want to, because they can be like 25,000 pounds for one lens. So what Tito does on his channel is he'll find vintage anamorphic lenses, be they from old like cinema projectors or anything like that, and he'll sort of review them on how they perform, tell you how you can find one, and most importantly, he'll show you how to sort of adapt them onto your consumer cameras to make them work with your consumer camera. So it's basically the best channel on YouTube, dare I say, about shooting anamorphic as a regular person that don't have a 25,000 pound per lens type of budget. And that is why I really highly recommend his channel if you're interested in shooting anamorphic, which, by the way, this video here is shot on anamorphic, and all of my videos are shot anamorphic, because it's a look I very much like from having worked on Hollywood films for going on like 6 years now. So it's just a look I enjoy and that I want to replicate for myself. And with having mentioned Tito Fairlands, that wraps up my list of my favorite gear review channels on YouTube. Please let me know in the comments, are there any review channels I missed that you think I should have mentioned? There probably is, you know, like this isn't end all be all list of the only good review channels. I've probably missed a lot of channels that are great, so please let me know in the comments, or if you have any questions or anything like that. And if you want to be one of my first 100 subscribers, then now's your chance, because you know, I'm gonna be putting out videos daily for a while to sort of just have fun, make some videos on YouTube, and be a creator. Alright, thanks for watching. See ya.